School bully Eric beats up his classmates at school, completely losing control and leaving one of his friends bruised and battered. The other students stand by, too scared of Eric's violent reputation to intervene. Known for his temper, Eric frequently gets into fights. This time, the school principal has had enough. He calls Eric into his office and expels him without hesitation. Eric walks out without remorse, but as he leaves, the principal delivers a stern warning: "You'll regret wasting this chance." Meanwhile, Eric's mother tells him that she is disappointed in him for getting expelled. Then she drops the bomb: she has already enrolled him in an all-boys boarding school. She makes it clear this is his last chance and expects him to take this opportunity seriously and not mess up again. Eric nods, promising to do better this time. He swears he'll graduate without getting expelled again. Will he graduate without getting expelled, or will he be expelled again? Let's find out. Eric arrives at his new school. He's dressed in a uniform and his hair is cut short. His new roommate is Pierre. The two hit it off, and Eric quickly realizes Pierre is friendly and easy to get along with. As night falls, Eric and Pierre rush to the hall for dinner. It's here that Eric meets another student named Johan, who tells him that every school has its traditions. At this school, your treatment depends entirely on your social status. Just as Johan finishes speaking, the student sitting next to Eric is suddenly called out by two other students seated at the far end of the table. Otto and Alon. The student who has just been called comes from an ordinary family, while Otto and Alon are the sons of wealthy nobles. Being from noble families, Otto and Alon often bully other students from less privileged backgrounds, like the one who's been sitting next to Eric. Otto and Alon act with impunity because their families hold significant influence over the school, meaning they don't fear expulsion. They are also part of the student council, which gives them the authority to punish other students. The next morning at breakfast, Otto and Dylan call Eric over. They want to give him a welcoming initiation as it's tradition for all new students. But Eric refuses outright. What Eric did was right at that moment. Let's see what happens next. The night comes. Otto and Dylan are gearing up for another round of hazing, this time aimed directly at Eric. They summon him to their headquarters and order him to clean up a pile of dirty shoes on the floor. Eric, however, defies them once again and walks out immediately. Furious, Dylan turns to Otto and asks how they should deal with Eric. Otto, still relaxed, tells Dylan to leave Eric alone for now. Later, Eric tells Pierre everything that happened. His roommate's expression suddenly grows tense. Pierre warns Eric not to disobey Otto and Dylan anymore. According to Pierre, students who defy their orders always face punishment. Eric, who was once a bully himself, shrugs it off, claiming he isn't afraid of them. He insists that he will never follow all of their orders. Later that night, Eric and Pierre brainstorm ways to stand up to Otto and Dylan's bullying without using violence, but it seems almost impossible. Most students prefer to obey them rather than end up bruised and battered. The next day, Dylan accidentally bumps into Eric while walking down the school corridor. Dylan demands an apology, but Eric refuses because he feels he didn't do anything wrong. It was Dylan who ran into him. This enrages Dylan, who then challenges Eric to a fight at a designated spot that night. Later, Pierre and Johan invite Eric to the location Dylan mentioned. Pierre warns Eric that Otto and Dylan never fight fair. They always call in friends to gang up on their opponents. That evening, Eric initially plans to accept Dylan's challenge and fight with him, but he changes his mind when he remembers his mother's advice to behave well in order to graduate from school. Back in the room, Pierre offers Eric a cigarette to help ease his tension. Meanwhile, Otto and Dylan wait at the battleground for hours. When Eric never shows up, Otto smugly concludes that Eric is too cowardly to fight, mocking him as a rat to the cheers of their lackeys. The next day, Otto publicly criticizes students who've consistently disobeyed the orders of the student organization, and Eric is at the top of that list. In a mock trial, Otto, as the student council president, sentences Eric to a full month of detention and orders him to dig a 1-meter-deep trench around the school. Eric works on the trench until late, so he ends up eating dinner alone in the hall because his task isn't completed on time. While Eric eats, a cafeteria worker named Maria approaches him. Maria seems intrigued by Eric, telling him that he reminds her of her brother. She goes on to explain that, like Eric, her brother had the same defiant attitude, refusing to bow down to authority. As usual, Eric smokes a bit after his meal. This time, Maria surprises him by showing up again. She warns Eric that smoking isn't good for his health, saying how she noticed the scent. Then Maria unexpectedly kisses and hugs him. Both Eric and Maria know full well that the school strictly forbids any romantic relationships between students and staff. The consequences are severe. Eric would be expelled, and Maria would be immediately fired. But that night, neither of them cares about the rules. Meanwhile, Otto and Dylan once again plot a prank. This time, they plan to pour dirty water on Eric while he sleeps. Their plan, of course, does not fail. Eric and Pierre wake up immediately and clean up the mess, But Eric isn't about to stay silent this time. He wants payback. Eric takes the remaining dirt, sneaks into Otto's room, turns off their lamps, and dumps it all over him while he sleeps. The next morning in the dining hall, Eric makes a point of speaking loudly so that everyone can hear. There, he says, sniffing the air dramatically. He wanders around the room, pretending to follow the scent before finally stopping right in front of Otto, who is eating breakfast. Eric then loudly declares, "Stink." Hearing this, Otto flies into a rage. Furious that Eric has dared to humiliate him in front of everyone, Otto punches Eric in the face, continuing to beat him down. But despite the blows, Eric doesn't fight back. He has promised his mother he'll stay out of trouble. The principal and all the teachers just sit at the next table and keep eating as if nothing happened. Maria, seeing this, immediately steps in and tells Otto to stop. Frustrated that they can't break Eric's resolve, Otto and Dylan decide it's time to change their target. Now, their target is Pierre, Eric's roommate and his only friend at the school. During lunch, Otto calls Pierre over. But Pierre refuses, believing he has done nothing wrong to Otto. Otto, however, isn't the type to give up so easily. After the last class of the day, he challenges Pierre to a fight, threatening him with punishment if he doesn't show up. Otto and Dylan deliberately target Pierre to provoke Eric. Naturally, Eric isn't going to sit by and watch his best friend get beaten by Otto and his gang. They plan to gang up on Eric afterward, ensuring no one will ever disobey Otto and Alon again. That evening, Pierre is forced to accept the challenge. He shows up alone at the battleground, where Otto, Dylan, and their followers are already waiting. Pierre tries his best to fight, but their physical abilities are on completely different levels. With a single effortless blow, Otto knocks Pierre to the ground. Eric is nowhere to be found. His best friend lies crumpled on the ground, humiliated after being treated like a joke by Otto and his gang. By the time Eric arrives, it's too late. There is nothing he can do. Eric carries Pierre back to their room and treats his injuries. The next morning, Eric is surprised the room is empty. Pierre is gone. He has taken all of his belongings, leaving no doubt that he isn't coming back to the school. He leaves only a letter apologizing for his sudden departure. In the letter, Pierre explains that Eric is a true friend and urges him not to give up. He encourages Eric to keep fighting against Otto and his followers' tyranny, to put an end to the injustice that plagues the school. Reading the letter, Eric stands up, his true resolve finally coming to the surface. He is determined to avenge Pierre and the other students who have suffered under Otto's cruelty. Without hesitation, Eric goes to the dining hall and confronts Dylan, challenging him and Otto to a fight in the arena. 1 hour later, alone, Eric faces off against Alon and Von Schennen, both of whom are bigger and stronger than him. But these two young thugs are all talk, relying on the power and influence of their parents. Eric, too, is a fighter and easily knocks them to the ground. Afterward, Eric threatens Otto, who is left stunned by how easily Eric has defeated his strongest lackey. Eric tells Otto that he is next. But before dealing with Otto, Eric heads to the school kitchen to find Maria. A female staff member informs him that Maria has been fired and has already left the school. She hands Eric a letter from Maria, but one of Otto's lackeys notices Eric receiving a letter from a school employee and immediately reports it to Otto. Otto then raids Eric's room and orders his cronies to search through Eric's belongings. Eventually, they find Maria's letter. Otto reads it and discovers Eric and Maria's secret relationship. With the letter in hand, Otto now has the evidence he needs to get Eric expelled. He wastes no time and hands over the proof of Eric's misconduct to the principal. The principal summons Eric and, without hesitation, expels him for committing such a serious offense with Maria. However, Eric, with the help of lawyer Gunnar, confronts the principal. Gunnar threatens to expose the school's toxic culture if Eric's expulsion isn't reversed. The principal relents, disbands the student council, and returns Maria's letter to Eric. With Otto's reign over, Eric focuses on his studies and graduates peacefully. His mother is proud, though his stepfather remains critical. When his stepfather attempts to punish him, Eric stands up for himself, ending the cycle of violence at home. In the end, Eric reunites with Pierre, who is preparing for further studies in Geneva. The two friends promise to meet again, knowing they have each grown stronger through their struggles.